Some of the information you are about to hear, some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Hey everybody, just as a friendly reminder, please be sure to check out the Anchor app. The Anchor app is totally free. It's how you can create a podcast. As a matter of fact, that's how I'm creating my podcast. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And the cool thing about Anchor is that it'll distribute your podcast for you. So it can be heard everywhere, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, and hundreds of more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's everything you need to make a podcast in one little place. It's real simple, kind of drag and drop little things. You can edit your audio. You could do sponsorships. Hey, like how I'm doing right now. Look at that. So, if you're interested in making your own podcast, please be sure to download the Anchor app on the Google Play Store or on the App Store. And if those don't work for you, then I suggest you go over to anchor.fm and get started on your podcast today. Please continue what you were saying, Jim. From 1974 to 1975, a killer was unleashed in San Francisco, drawing in his victims both figuratively and literally. But who was he? To this day, the killer remains a ghost. Ironically, only a drawing of what he is suspected to look like is all that remains. Join us today as Botalks with Big Jim and special guest Izzy Diaz about the Doodler. All right, we are recording now. Obviously, we have a guest here today, Mr. Izzy Diaz. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on your show. I appreciate it. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts from the past, from the couple that you put out there, and I was pretty excited when your pops called me up and said, "Hey, man, you want to jump on?" And I was pretty excited. So I appreciate you having me on here. I'm going to put the disclaimer out here right now that, you know what, I'm not the expert on any of the subject, whatever it is that you're about to talk about, but you know what, I'll put in my own 2 cents.
I don't think any of us will be the expert on this subject because
I'm only pretending to be in the closet. That's all.
So just in case, so that some of you don't know, Jim's in the closet.
I am in the closet.
Trapped in the closet.
You'll understand why.
So,
my wife didn't put me in here.
Really quick before we get started, Izzy, you have a YouTube. You kind of create videos. You're a videographer, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So what that up on the background?
What? Yeah.
Put that screen up.
Yeah. What got you into doing that?
To be honest with you, I remember from way back. I realized that I had always liked filming and just capturing moments. I've never been much of a photographer because I always felt like photography always captured a moment, but it never told the full story from the beginning to the photo to the end after the photo. Mm-hmm. So my thing was always, taking video and seeing the whole story pan out. And then it went from there to actually creating videos from an entire day and vlogging and that sort of stuff to telling the story about your life. And I used to tease my family. I used to tease my family and say, "Hey, look, I'm documenting my life." I did that. I think it was in 2017 or 2018. I did almost an entire year of vlogging. And I told them, I said, I'm doing this so that when I go senile or I get Alzheimer's or something, you guys can like feed me back this information. See, Dad, this is who you were. Like you can. So that I joke about it, but really what it boiled down to. While I was doing that, I felt like it was actually preparing me for something even greater. And, I do follow faith. So, I do attend at my church. I'm help with the media team. So,
oh, nice.
After doing some of the video, I got connected with the media team at my church, and then I started kind of honing the skill. So it went from vlogging to just learning a little bit more about how to utilize the cameras and a lot of the other avenues that you to be more creative with the camera. And so now my YouTube channel is more of practice so that I could bring that to my church service.
Nice.
And that's, that in itself, I mean, that could probably be a whole separate conversation when you hear people talking about a lot of the production that goes into like worship service.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's another way. Like other people, they play music. My way of worship is the visual, like having somebody immersed inside worship music and that sort of stuff. So I like it. I really do like it. I really enjoy it. I really feel that there's a God gift in there somewhere, that's letting me be able to go out and have some fun.
That's a God-given talent to be able to use to go from the camera that you just showed us, which I'm assuming over at your church are huge, really big production size value cameras, correct?
Yeah. We kind of fluctuated from cameras just because technology gets old. My church has been around for like 35 years, so you can only imagine like the progression and the type of how it was being recorded up until we're doing right now, which almost every church, pretty much, I would say 95% of the churches are now all doing this. They're on a Zoom, they're on some kind of multimedia. So who would have thought that, not being able to go into a church, but being able to reach people out there with, video cameras and the internet, that was always, from a secular side, it was always something where it was a stigma for a lot of people, especially the churches. They were like, dude, that's a gateway for all kinds of different things to open your mind, and it's like one of those things where it goes back to choice. It's choice. You have the choice to click here or click there, and what are you going to open your eyes to? Whatever your eye sees, it feeds into your soul and into your mind. And so
that's still pretty badass, because I remember
I always chose pornography.
I remember as a kid, and Dad, you can probably agree with me, is when people would come over, I would always grab a video. I love taking pictures.
Yeah.
I love taking pictures.
I remember you used to do it when we were in Arizona. You put the freaking video camera, I don't know whose it was, but you put it in the refrigerator and you opened it up, start pouring milk, and brushing your teeth.
Yeah,
I remember all that.
I was doing a commercial for what was that? I was gonna say Chrysler. It's not Chrysler. It's Crest. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So,
I remember that.
But that's really cool, and this kind of somewhat segues into what we're going to talk about. And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't know, Izzy, as far as your faith goes, what they believe in, but what we're going to talk about today is a serial killer. And not only is he a serial killer, but he's a serial killer who hunted, quote unquote, in San Francisco, specifically in the Castro district, from 1974 to 1975.
But was he homosexual? He wasn't homosexual, correct? Or they haven't decided.
According to what I found, is they do deem him, yes, homosexual, and they also found out that he had a little bit of psychology issues when it came to that.
But he was a sadist anyway. I mean, he got off on doing that. That's why he started drawing.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you visualize killing somebody after throwing the pipe? I mean, So I don't.
So was he? So I'll let you. I'm sorry. I'm probably jumping.
No, I'm good.
No,
I don't know anything about this. All I know is that you told me it was the Doodler.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I actually had mentioned that I was going to be on your podcast to somebody, and they're like, so is this guy like a drawer? And I'm like, yeah, but I think there's a little bit more sinister than that. I don't know anything about this, so I'm really intrigued as to find out, what this cat was all about. What is it that he did?
He was into a lot of different things. I'm gonna hit pause really quick.
Pick up where you left off.
There it is. All right. So we're gonna.
All right, welcome back to the Botalks podcast. Our guest today is Bo Jim Salinas with Salinas Senior. Welcome back to the podcast. Sorry, man.
That's all
Cut
good.
that part out. Cut that part out.
No, everything's staying in.
No,
He sounds
don't.
like you ever watch that program Lone Meyer?
Lone Meyer.
I think it's called Lone Meyer, the baseball commentator. Never
Oh,
mind.
swing
Hank
and a
Azaria.
miss.
That
He was
guy.
on a he was on a what's that baseball movie? The one with he's got tiger blood in him. What's his name? Sheen.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
Bob Uecker.
Yes, that's the other one I was thinking of. Actually, was Bob.
Yeah,
Uecker.
Bob Uecker.
but now you got me stuck on the movie.
Don't
Wild
sorry.
Things.
Well, no.
No, his name was
Major
Wild
League.
Thing. Major League.
Major
His
League,
name
yeah.
his name was Wild Thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make my heart sing. Yeah.
Here we go.
All right. So as I mentioned before, this gentleman is named only as the Doodler, and from January 1974 to September 1975, he was a serial killer who roamed the streets of San Francisco, more specifically in the Tenderloin to the Castro district. What we know about him specifically is that he was a black male between the age of 19 to 24 years old, about 6 feet tall and slim. He commonly dressed in a navy blue beanie, baggy clothes, and an overcoat. It's speculated that the Doodler had a number of different occupations, from an art student to an animator to a cartoonist. The reason why they speculate that is because when he would meet his victims, the people that he hunted, he would specifically draw them into conversation.
Yeah, and to draw their sexual in his mind, there's sexual positions.
Exactly. Did you look it up after you did, didn't you?
No, you told me about it.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
They've got a lot of. So you're saying, did I understand you right? You said that they didn't catch this cat,
No.
Yes.
but they had all this other information. They knew the beanie. They knew
it.
So
We are going to get to it, but yeah, just keep that on your mind. It was even reported that the Doodler was a psychiatric patient who had a history of mental difficulties involving sex. And now we're going to get into the meat of exactly what he did. It's reported the Doodler killed up to about 14 people. What we have confirmed are five known victims. He attempted to kill 3 others, but those 3 somehow survived. The killer, as I said before, drew his victims and drew them into him. What he would do was go to local gay bars. They were then, back in the 70s, more commonly known as leather bars. So if you ever see, what was that?
Police Academy.
There you go.
Blue Oyster.
Yes, they're all dressed up. That's exactly what it is.
Dude, I just saw Police Academy the other day too. It came up on Netflix.
I haven't seen that movie in forever.
On quarantine, and that and it just so happened, dude. I don't know. This is why I jumped into it. Not that I'm, I was quick to tell you what movie you're talking about. We were on the same length. The fact that Police Academy came on, and when I was like, oh, let me check this out, and I clicked it on, somebody had to have been watching it, because Blue Oyster was the scene, how it from the last time you left off.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that was the scene where the guy gets kind of shoved into the bar, and that song, the song, I don't even know what song it is that comes on, and it's just like the guy grabs him, pulls him up close, and they start dancing in the middle of the.
It was that a Latin song, wasn't it? Like a tango, not the tango, but where they dance together.
Yeah, but I don't.
That's a great movie.
So side note, that's the only reason why I was able to really pin that to what it is that you were referencing.
Yeah. So I
was thinking Mad Max.
Leather bar.
Oh, there you go.
Mad Max. All the police officers wearing leather.
Yeah, the dude in the with the big jock strap with the studs on it. Well, that's pretty much what it was, though. They would go to these bars. They'd be dressed up in their leather outfits, however they wanted to wear it, and that's how every man in these bars would meet. Well, that's where this guy came in. He would be from what I read, he would be the only one who would come in dressed and clothed, but then start kind of being like Jack from Titanic and drawing Rose, and like, hey, look, this is you, and then they would find that attractive and be like, oh, you can draw me. Conversation would start. They would do a hell of a lot of other things. Obviously, drink. I'm assuming cocaine was big back in the 70s. Excuse me. And so from there, it led to a number of things. And finding his talent very attractive, the men would gravitate to him. Prior to murders taking place, this is how they would get to know one another, and then they would engage in sexual encounters afterwards. So, like I said, whatever it is that they did, he drew them to draw them in. The method in which he chose to kill all of these people, to me, and I would love to hear both of your opinions on it, is he would stab them. Now, to my recollection, to my knowledge, from what I've found and read, when you stab someone, that is a very, very close and intimate thing. Like, you want to see the expression of the person, their life being taken. You want to see the life just be drained. It's a very close and emotional thing.
Well, if you think about though, and depending on how you stab somebody, and again, I'm not the expert in killing somebody.
I don't think any of us are.
But I know that there are subtle ways, and then there are very slow ways, and there are very quick ways of terminating. And especially with somebody who is in a struggle, stabbing somebody, it could be very, again, this sounds really weird to say intimate, but stabbing somebody as opposed to shooting them and having a quick death. When you stab somebody, more than likely that doesn't actually kill them instantly like they do in the movies.
No.
I mean, there's a fight, there's a struggle. So I could only assume this dude must be like muscles and like overpowering somebody to get to the point where they stab them.
Again, from what
multiple
times. We're actually going to start talking about the victims.
Oh.
But yes, multiple. No, you're good. I just keep it flowing, you know. But yes,
well, a lot of times what he's getting off on, like I said earlier, he is a sadist. He's a sadist, and that's how sadists get their euphoria. You know, normal people get off by
get their rocks off,
ejaculation, right? Well, this guy enforcing his power and drawing the life out of something, and obviously the pain he inflicted, that is his orgasm.
Wow.
Even though he's having sex with him, he doesn't get the gratification. So he has to inflict the pain, like you said. He's figuring out a slow kill or a fast kill. I'm assuming if they put up a fight, who knows? Who knows how he...
But don't forget, as I said just before, they believed that he was a psychiatric patient who struggled with mental difficulties involving sex. Now, could that have meant that was he having issues downstairs? 2, was he having issues like many people back then and even now in today's society, struggling with their sexuality, struggling with who they are and coming out of the closet? You know, do you think that could have played on either his emotions or even the people who were the victims?
Dude, I would absolutely say the fact that, especially in the 1970s, I mean, it's exactly how you said, to segue into what you were talking about earlier, that, you know, our society now, it's more accepted for a lot of different things of how we address people and how we accept certain things of how our culture is. Whereas in 1970, literally, you know, almost 40 something years ago, it was almost taboo to even think that it was okay to come out of the closet like that, you know, to be expressive of your sexuality. You look at like some of those shows that I remember, I Dream of Jeannie, the stuff that I grew up with, you know, I Dream of Jeannie, Gilligan's Island. A lot of those shows, they try to express sexuality, but they had to do it very conservatively in the way they were dressed, the way they portrayed themselves. So
Yeah.
if you
Or
were,
even, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've only seen it a handful of times, but the uncle of
from,
Bewitched.
yes,
I mean,
but he
he
wasn't, but he wasn't, he was straight on the show. And even Dick Van Dyke himself, is it Dick Van Dyke? I believe that's what it was. I think he was actually, or one of those guys was actually also, um was
closeted.
Oh,
also, yeah.
from Brady Bunch, the dad from Brady Bunch, he was the one who was homosexual. And the first character of I Dream of Jeannie was a homosexual who was I
I don't
forgot the
think it was Dick.
husband's name,
Maybe it
but
wasn't
there
Dick
was
Van
two
Dyke.
there was two actors that portrayed the male lead in I Dream of Jeannie. The first one
The
was a homosexual.
the
Second one
general.
wasn't. Yeah,
Damn, I didn't know that. Especially I
yeah.
especially didn't know the what's his name, the dad from Brady Bunch.
Oh yeah.
You sure?
Rock Hudson. Positive. What? Mike Brady?
Are you googling it?
Yeah.
I
You
have
know
So
to,
who else was
because it wasn't
who
Dick. I
else
know it
was a
wasn't Dick
freak
Van
like that?
Dyke, but it was Hayden Rourke who took over for Dick Van Dyke. There was this whole thing of how they replaced Dick Van Dyke with another guy or whatever, and this guy was basically considered, you know, in the closet. But again, you kind of knew there was some kind of something funky about this cat. Well, I remember again when I was a kid and I'm watching this with my mom because I was forced to watch it because she had to watch her shows, but before I got to see my cartoons, and I knew that there was something funky about the dude. I didn't know what it was. It was just something odd. It wasn't typical of what I was grown up in seeing. So when
Yeah.
you see individuals like that, how conservative it was for you not to express yourself. Imagine the individual, like you said, somebody who's had a psychiatric ward. And again, this is all assumption. I'm not the expert, but I think about like somebody who is struggling with that and thinking about that, like I shouldn't be this way, but I feel this way, and neither should this person.
and not only that, what if hypothetically, because I didn't see anything regarding this, but kind of segueing into what you were talking about earlier, not only is this person struggling mentally, but now what about religiously?
Oh,
Right? Correct me if
mhm,
I'm wrong.
that's true.
That's it, and that especially then, and again, correct me if I'm wrong because I am just talking out of my ass, really. But from what I know, homosexuality, even today, as much as people have accepted it, is still shunned upon, specifically in religious areas.
Some, and I would agree with you for some, and that's one of those things,
So,
without getting too far off topic, the whole idea of homosexuality, it's the actual sin in itself is what is shunned, but the people typically aren't. At least depending on which culture,
mm-hmm.
religious culture that you're talking about. There are some that they'll basically kill you
Yeah,
if they find out. They stone you, they kill you, whatever it is that whatever, they take it to that point. Whereas there's their religions that take things as, what, you as a human, you are loved, but the sin in itself is still not acceptable. Like there's got
mm-hmm.
to be something else that's, that, well, I'll leave it at that, that there's the sin that's not acceptable. And you're free to make a choice. You're a free agent, you're agent of free will. So you're free to make a choice. So if you choose to do that, then that's who you are. But that doesn't eliminate you from not still loving that same person or befriending that same person.
Yeah.
Um,
But it's just a thought, though. I mean,
but you're right.
like I said, we're about to talk
That,
about the victims, but all of that, especially with stabbing, like I said, it's a very intimate thing that could have played that
that's
these
brutal, man. Stabbings are brutal.
both of these could have played a big factor in why he did what he did.
That is a slow death, man. Any way you put, unless you literally like chop their heads off. I don't even know why I'm thinking this. Why are you taking me down this dark path?
Hey man, this is, like I said, I just find shit interesting and I like talking about it, and I want other people's opinion on what I find
It's just
interesting.
it's really, and that is dark, man, because I mean it's very slow, and it's very, I would imagine it's got to be very painful unless you actually cut a specific artery where they bled out in minutes. I mean,
Not
they're
even
still
minutes, it's seconds. There's from the things that I've read, excuse me, I keep burping, things that I've read for the job that I'm currently working at, they gave us tourniquets. And if I forgot the specific name, but if it's an artery that's cut, you have seconds before that person bleeds out.
The one in your leg or the one in your neck?
Anywhere. On
It's
your
the
arm,
same artery. Yeah.
in your
Under
leg,
here.
you have seconds. And you can pour out quick.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
Now the victims. Again, as I said, this happened in the mid 1970s. Everything in this time, everybody was starting to become happier. The Gay Liberation Parade, or now today known as Pride Parade, was in full swing. People were coming out of the closet. San Francisco was a safe haven of homosexual men and women. Even Harvey Milk, the co-founder of the Castro Village Association, made a gay business owners association for everyone to come together. So everybody should have been happy. Everybody was in joy. But instead, what we found on January 24th, 1974, was Gerald Canaval. Or what's the name of the liquor store down the street?
Kavanaugh.
Thank you. Gerald Cavanaugh, a 40-year-old white Canadian American immigrant who was believed to be the first victim of the Doodler. A woman walking her dog found him fully clothed, face down, and covered in defensive wounds. She then immediately, because back then in the 70s, technology was not what we have today, she had to go back to her house, whether that was a block, 2, 3, or 4 blocks to her house, call 911, and say that she had found a man face down in the sand on Ocean Beach, and that she believes that he may be dead. When they found Gerald, he had defensive wounds, as I said. Now, defensive wounds, they go primarily on the arms. When especially if someone's trying to stab you or even punch you, you're blocking like this. You're trying to stop. So he had cuts and gashes all through his arms here. What they found was he was stabbed approximately 8 times in his chest and in his back. Now, again, could this been a person who was struggling with his sexuality, whether it was mentally, physically, or even religiously? Because if you stab someone in the chest 4 times, I'm pretty sure that person's not going to be getting up. And if they happen to roll over and you stab them and another 4 times, that's pretty messed up.
So trying to stab the gay out of them?
I mean,
I know it sounds terrible, but
yeah, but that
can you imagine the aggression the guy probably had?
Oh yeah,
he had that many fatal stab wounds. He was probably trying to.
He was trying to do something.
Yeah, to remove something out of guilt of himself.
Was he gay, or he just basically that was his victim, so he just portrayed himself in order to gain his victims?
No, that's what I was going to ask. Was he? Did I didn't see anything.
It was never confirmed that he was in fact a homosexual, but according to what the 3 surviving victims said, was that they tried to engage in sexual activity with him before something else happened. So it never really confirmed it, but don't forget, he went to multiple gay bars, found multiple gay men, and killed them before doing sexual encounters. And again, DNA is not what it is today as it was then in the 70s. So who knows?
Didn't have it.
Right.
Wow.
And the reason why they assumed that he himself was gay, because again, all of the victims were gay, whether they were very flamboyant about it from witness testimony, or as mentioned here in Gerald's case, he was labeled as never being married, which I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, the both of you, this was a term thrown around in the 1970s as being gay. If he was never married, then he was probably swinging the other direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I never heard that, but it could be. It's either single or marriage. I assume that's the title you're referring to, but what does the Facebook say? In a relationship or complicated
Yeah.
or married or divorced? Yeah, I don't know.
Engaged.
I've never heard that saying.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's so much different than
Then,
1974.
which then leads us to our second victim. 6 months later, June 25th, 1974, the same year, the second victim of the Doodler is found, Joseph J. Stevens, a 27-year-old San Francisco native. He too was also found fully clothed, and he was also found by another woman walking her dog. Now, earlier, Izzy, with that cool background that you have there, you were going through a bunch of pictures. And Dad, you said one of them specifically was at which park?
Palace of Fine Arts?
Palace of Fine Arts, which is at
Yeah.
Spreckles Lake in Golden Gate Park.
Yeah.
This is where he was found. Jay was known.
In that park?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Jay
Well,
was.
the beach that the other guy was found is the beach that I took you guys to that
Oh yeah.
bathhouse.
Yeah.
Izzy, you remember that beach you and Jenny sat on? When we were watching that's Ocean Beach. Imagine running from the edge of the water to her house. She was trekking to get to a phone. The lady who had to call authorities. Yeah.
What?
You said that the lady who saw the first victim
I'm sorry.
had to run back home to call the authorities. So I said, for an example, to give him a visual where that's at and how far it would have been from running from the beach to her house.
I didn't listen very well. I thought you were going to continue with the story about him and Jenny being on the beach and that some woman had to run to go find authorities while you guys were there. I was like, damn, you didn't tell me this, dude.
No, I would have told you that. He probably would have recorded it.
So that's where Jay Stevens was found. Jay Stevens was fairly known in the gay community as a drag queen and known for his comedy skits in local gay bars. It was speculated by police that he drove the killer to the park, had sex with him, and then died shortly after. Jay, very similar to Gerald, was stabbed 6 times, again in his chest and in his back. Third victim, same year, 1 month later. Klaus Christmann, 31 years old, believed to be the third victim, on July 7th, 1974, discovered on Lincoln Way just before Ocean Beach, and he was found yet by another woman walking her dog. He was actually found face up near the sand dunes of Ocean Beach. With the other body found, a famous inspector, then with another body being found, a famous inspector began to get involved with this case. His name was David Toshi. He's best known for working on the case of the Zodiac Killer. Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
How
are they not the same person? How did they not?
Well, don't forget, when the Zodiac Killer was killing, he was killing in multiple different areas, just like the Golden State Killer.
State Killer, right?
Golden Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. This guy was specifically targeting areas in San Francisco, the Tenderloin District, or at least they speculate, and the Castro District, where all of the gay bars are. Whereas
they're back to back.
Yeah. Whereas the Zodiac Killer went from Berryessa Lake, he went to Vallejo, he went to San Francisco. He was all over the Bay Area and Northern California.
So this Doodler character didn't get as much recognition because of the Zodiac Killer?
I believe
they didn't pay that much attention?
And don't forget, he only did it for 1 year. The Zodiac went for multiple years. And he also went in, as far as the Zodiac goes, he also went in and was making phone calls specifically to the police departments and the news agencies about, oh, I'm the Zodiac, you can't find me. Here's this letter, try and decode that. So there was a big picture on him, a big spotlight on him So all of that light, being focused on the zodiac makes a very dark and shadowy background for someone else to try and do what they want to try and do. As far as I see it.
Wow.
Finding Mr. Kreisman, Toshi even described the killing as one of the most vicious stabbings he had ever seen, and that's saying something, because again, this guy was the lead inspector on the Zodiac killer, right?
Yeah, he saw a lot of it. Yeah.
However, police and investigator Toshi think that this killing was actually a botched killing, as Claus had his throat slit 3 different times, and he was stabbed over 18 times.
Jeez.
Dude, he lived?
He died. Oh, are you kidding?
Oh, okay.
He got his throat
I
slit
thought you were
3
going to
times.
say he lived. I don't. Hey, man.
But tell me that's not crazy, right? If he's already frustrated, like I said before, if he's already frustrated, whether it's sexually, mentally, religiously, whatever you want to call it, and then on top of that, the guy is fighting him, still trying to get away, and now he has to do extra.
Yeah, what do they call it? Escalating. His behavior was escalating.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think, Izzy, so far?
Man, that's crazy, dude. Like the fact that this guy, dude, he went straight up rage. I mean, like I said,
it's rage. It's rage.
When you're taking somebody, even if it's 6 times, the person is screaming, especially when you know that your life is being taken from you. I mean, it's fight or flight. Those types of things end up coming into play. And so when the first 2 times you get stabbed, it's fight or flight. Your body is naturally wants to fight or flight. And I would imagine that these guys were just trying to fight. Well, this guy was this guy big? Like, how did he overpower? And it sounds like he said he was 18 to 22, and he progressed into more.
He was 19 to 24 years old, about 6 foot tall, slim, but they said he was built. They did say
he
that
had strength. He had a lot of strength.
He had to have, man, in order to hold somebody down and stick them the same in the chest. How the common victims were 6 times, whereas this guy put up a mad fight and ended up getting slit 3 times and then
stabbed.
Yeah,
18.
man.
So he definitely had to persuade him into a certain position, either in the back, having them face down, and then they would turn over to resist and fight. And then that's where this comes in, lifting your arms to defend yourself. Yeah, he definitely had to put him in a certain position where they thought that they were.
This is going to sound funny, but he had to
let their guard down.
He had to be the Doodler, had to be the top, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a phrase. If for those listening or for you guys don't, well, but I said it again like I did last time. No,
I don't.
But
is
the
there
top.
You're not telling me, Jim?
Yeah, come on, Dad. Seriously, I am your son, right?
That's what your mama says. I can go get her.
So in the gay community, and again, research that I found, there are tops and there are bottoms. Tops are the more dominant in the relationship or the characters. They tell the person what they want to do. They are the dominant. The dominant. Thank you. And then there's the bottoms, who are the submissive. They go and do what the top is saying to do. So just like you said, he probably had them doing whatever it is that he wanted them to do to then end up killing them.
Hey, you don't have to. I mean, I get what you're saying. He's kind of a muscular, tall guy, but like Izzy keeps saying, there is a certain the person who's getting attacked, they're going to be in shock. They're going to start fighting. They probably don't even feel all those stab wounds.
Probably true.
Well, probably finally where the victim started to be subdued was the loss of blood. There was no energy. Their heart's pumping out of these holes, the blood squirting out of these holes. Yeah,
and honestly, I just thought about this right now. This is the only guy who's been stabbed multiple times over the top. What if, hypothetically, what if he was also a top and was trying to have the doodler do something that he wanted?
Could have been. Yeah, he probably wanted to be the dominant of their interacting or their intercourse. Could have been. Maybe he didn't. Who knows? Maybe the guy let his guard down and thought, well, maybe he can finally give in to the temptation that he is homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe he just, who knows? Who fuck knows? I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine. But like Izzy says, I can't imagine. Even at the stuff you watch on TV now, and they try to get all the visuals, 100%, the aggression of stabbing somebody and then feeling it. You know, they're not. People's chests aren't that thick. If this guy had a knife that was 8 inches long, standard buck knife, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel the insertion and the punch.
Yeah.
So who knows?
But see, that's the other thing too, is all they don't even have a murder weapon. They just have stab wounds. So yes,
so nothing was ever, even to now, there was no evidence collected the entire time. 25 years later, nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, so they don't even have blood residual that they could identify that was a different male.
Nothing.
Right. So underneath the skin, usually there's
even fingernails.
Yeah, fingernails, and there's somebody scratching, trying to get away, and hair.
There'd
saliva,
be something.
Spit.
Yeah.
That saliva.
But like
snot.
But like you said, back in that day, those days, DNA very little to what it is now. It wasn't anything.
I know, but still, just if you were in evidence retrieval, you would probably cut and save the shirt. You would probably cut and save the pants. You would probably cut and save whatever article of clothing or anything in the surrounding of wherever the stabbing took place. I'd imagine they would still collect the evidence from that, wouldn't they?
From what I've found, to this day, they have no leads whatsoever.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It only gets crazier, really. So
okay, keep going. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Let's see, where did I leave off? And this is where they also speculated Klaus to be gay, is because he was married and had 2 children, so he was on the down low. That's
where his defense came from. He was trying to keep that. He was fight or flight. I can't let this get out. It's going to ruin my family. He put up a bigger fight than the other people.
Which I strongly believe is why he is not caught. Because, again, like I said, back in the 70s. This guy's
a family man?
The victim.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what he's...
Oh, the victim was a family man. I misunderstood. I thought you said I thought you said the killer. Turns out the killer was a family man.
The victim had a family.
Yeah, the victim
and I'm assuming he probably... This was so on the down low that he had to protect his secret so much that he had to resist. He had to protect his family, his family name. So he put up a bigger fight.
Yeah.
He definitely put up a bigger fight. Sure.
Which now kind of paints an even broader picture of okay, I can see why he was stabbed 18 times and had his throat cut 20 times.
Man.
He didn't want to embarrass himself, his family. People weren't thought of very highly in the 70s of being homosexual.
Yeah.
Or in the beginning of time, really, but go ahead.
After that, though, there was a bit of a break for a couple of months. I'm only assuming because
after
that fight, because there was a actual fight.
He probably got busted up himself.
He probably did.
Very true.
Which is again.
With that said, that's what I'm saying. 18 stab wounds. The guy resisted and fought back. The knife's gonna get bloody. It's gonna slip. I don't know. You guys, I don't know. You've fished before, Izzy. When you fillet a fish, you get all the guts and shit, right? It gets slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine blood. I know.
That's why. Don't forget. Like I work with my dad at a slaughter slash slaughterhouse slash meat
right.
packing class. So that's why it's like, I sit there and I visualize a lot of like some of the knife cutting, like a lot of it's more precision when it comes to the butchers and the way they do things. But when I was working at the meat factory with my pops, of course I'm like 11, 12, 13 years old. So dude, I'm grabbing knives and I'm sticking stuff, and my dad's coming up behind me, giving me a swat in the back of my head, telling me to, you know, my whole job really was supposed to be packing meat, but of course
Yeah.
you get bored. I'm 11-year-old, 12-year-old. I'm bored. It's my summer, so
I'm
I
just
go out.
I'm just picturing you standing there, just kind of like, just
Yes,
stabbing.
yes,
He was like
that's
this.
exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is, dude. My first instance. Here's why I thought it was it was just really weird, and it's gonna probably sound really morbid, especially for someone, if I get any friends that are gonna be listening to this.
But you've seen that. You've seen what the morbidity, if that's the way it's a word. You've seen death. You've had the slaughter. Doesn't get any more deadlier. You don't get more of an envision than that.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the
You've seen
cow still breathing after
Yeah.
they've cut the throat, and
Yeah.
they hung it upside down, and blood is pouring out of their neck. That's why I said, dude, like I said, that's why I was like, in my mind, you're telling me that dude was stabbed 8 times. He ain't dead. I can guarantee you. And especially if he's getting stabbed in the chest, some of those stab wounds, they're punctures, but they're not past the rib cage. Whereas other ones, I'm
Right.
sure, were past the rib cage to enough to where it caused damage. And again, the only reason why I know this is because
But that's a good example. You are aware firsthand of what the anatomy is, where the actual bone to the, it would be
for the cow.
Right.
For the cow would be their flesh and their fur. Right.
When you sit there, and of course every kid that saw Rocky, you go and you start punching on the cows and you start doing the old Rocky scene, you do other things and you start emulating, especially when I see the guys that were butchering the cow up. I went over there to grab a knife myself and I started poking around, and some stuff, the knife didn't go any further. It hit the bone, and other ones it slid right in between the two rib cage. Yeah. And I know it's morbid to think that way, but
no, it's not. That's the thing. I don't think it's morbid at all. If anything, like my dad just said, it's very informational, because it stabbed 8 times for the first victim, stabbed 6 times for the second victim, 18 times for Klaus. There is a big difference there. And that is purely rage. And the first 2, he probably just stabbed them, and because they wanted to maybe not want to lay there, but they laid there to play dead, to play possum maybe. Unfortunately, they passed away.
It sounded like he got them in a position that they were already subdued, or they were in, they were already, their guard was down, they were seriously submissive, and they probably didn't even see the shit coming.
No. This guy
felt it.
Definitely saw it coming. And like you said, fight or flight, my family is not going to find out about this at all. I'm going, this is not going to happen. And unfortunately, it did happen.
Was he from the Bay Area too? Klaus?
No, actually, I did not. I skipped that line by accident. He is actually a German immigrant.
So what was he doing in America?
He was living with his family. He was working at what is the? It's a fishing. It's Fisherman's Wharf.
The Grotto. Aliotos.
There you go. The first one, Grotto.
Fisherman's Grotto.
Yeah, he was working there. So he was just trying to make a life like everyone else who came from Europe or wherever.
The Grotto, that's a tourist site, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we normally go right where we ate at Applebee's that night.
I thought that was a freaking restaurant. That's actual job? Like
it's a location is what it is, but the biggest restaurant back then was the Fisherman's Grotto. Yeah.
Yep. Oh. So that's where he was working at. Now,
like you were telling me that some kind of fishing, like it was some kind of fishing business where they brought in
that's
fish.
The trolley. You don't remember the backside where we saw that clown, Stacy's friend, that clown who was doing all the bubbles?
Yeah.
That's where they used to bring in all the catch of the days. Right there. That's the Grotto.
Why does Mom?
You didn't notice the difference in the doors?
Dude, it just looks it looks so iconic, and it looks so like touristy. Like I wouldn't have thought that was.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it had to. I was under the assumption that was all like naval base or
Oh
something.
man, that's all of San Francisco,
The
really.
naval base is where we went, me and you, when we walked along that whole, the Presidio. Remember where they were having that New Year's Eve party when you and I walked along that pier and we were taking those videos? Okay, the nightlife that was behind us, that's the Presidio. That was the beginning of Crissy Field. The Presidio is remember when we left that area and we were actually driving up looking for Starbucks and we saw all them big houses? That was the naval base. That's where all the officers and the generals and the colonels lived. That was correct. That was an active naval state.
Little tidbit of knowledge, by the way. They say the Presidio is one of the most haunted areas in San Francisco.
Oh,
well, we got to get into that one next.
Mic drop.
All right.
All right. Now, like I said, there was a bit of a break. And like Izzy, you said, he probably got roughed up pretty good and was like, you know what? Let me take a break before I get my ass whooped by someone else. Unfortunately, this is where we come across to the fourth victim. Frederick Kappen, 32 years old, was found May 12th, 1975. He was a registered nurse and a medical corpsman for the Navy. Now, I specifically put that in there because, as I mentioned before, when they gave a description of what the Doodler looked like, he would always wear a naval beanie, a naval cap.
And a pea coat.
Which is very common.
When we first started. Yeah,
very common back in the day, especially in San Francisco when the ships would come in, and the Navy guys would go throughout the city.
What's a pea coat?
What's a pea coat? It's a long military style wool over jacket, like an overcoat. It has a real thick lapels with the 3 large buttons, and it's 100% wool. They're nice jackets. They're very expensive. You can find them at the Salvation Armies right now. But if you could fashion icons, and they develop their own style, but a pea coat is that design. Yeah. But so, no, you're right. I thought about that because all on the wharf, all that used to be active duty.
All of it. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was thinking too.
Not even.
If there was a break in between, each assault, he was probably out to shore, out to sea.
Could have been.
Okay.
Possibility. But like I said, it's not confirmed. So, as I mentioned, Frederick was a corpsman for the Navy. They found him with his aorta cut, his aorta stabbed, and his heart stabbed. So now he was able to puncture through the chest cavity and hit someone in their heart. They found him stabbed 8 separate times.
But it wasn't a precise stab. He just got lucky and hit the 2 major arteries.
Yes.
Okay. So he had no medical training.
No.
Okay.
From speculation.
Yeah.
But this guy, and he very close to where, what's his name?
Klaus?
No. Joseph was found. Joseph Stevens. He was found in a further area of Golden Gate Park.
Yeah. Which is where the Tenderloin is at the end of Golden Gate Park.
Yeah.
And then if you go, I mean, it sounds big, but San Francisco is really small. All these neighborhoods back into each other, or they're connected.
Big time.
So yeah. Go ahead.
So that's where they found him at. And then again, we are now 1 month later in June, right? May, June. Yeah. In June, almost 1 month exactly. Very, very close. They found Harold Goldberg, Gullberg, Goldberg, a 66-year-old man. He was known as the last known victim of the Doodler. They found him on June 4th, 1975. He was found, this is where it gets a little interesting, I think. They found him near the 16th hole of Lincoln Park golf course.
Really?
Yes.
What is that? Do you have to have a membership to be in there?
Not at the time. I think it was just a public golfing area.
But
I got a question.
Yeah.
I got a question. Maybe you can look it up. See how far back Fleet Week started.
Fleet Week.
Fleet Week.
All right. I'll look
Type
that up.
in, when did Fleet Week begin?
Let me see. I'm sure it started probably back in the 70s.
Okay. And then do you have the dates of all the actual incidents?
Yeah.
So you know all the dates? Okay. So what I'm getting at, if this all happened around Fleet Week when everybody was at
Nope.
port?
Nope.
No?
Fleet Week did not start until 1982.
Okay. Never mind. I had a theory.
Wow.
That's a good theory, though. I mean, it's to me, that's a really good theory. I would have expected Fleet Week to start like when the military base over in Alameda was still active.
That was in the 70s. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Right.
Even Treasure Island still had some activity on it.
So
Now
that's
it's just a high-end residential area, but
62
go ahead.
years old, and he was the last victim that you know of. That
66.
he was 66 years old.
Mm-hmm. He was found on a golf course, near the 16th hole of Lincoln Park Golf Course. Harold was
Stabbed 8
found.
times.
He was stabbed 7 times. He also was found with his pants down and no underwear. So he was also clothed, but this time everyone else had their clothes on. Their clothes were on. He was the only one that had his pants down and no underwear, and he did not get found suspected until 2 weeks after he died.
Oh, so he
At
was
the golf
already
course?
decayed
At the
and
golf
everything.
course. He had been so badly decomposed that maggots, flies, little critters, anything that you could think of were everywhere on him.
In the what hole? Which hole was that?
16 in his butthole.
Oh, stupid. What
Are
a
you
golf
serious?
course hole.
No.
Oh, I was like, it's 18 holes.
Yeah,
Like nobody.
the
I
16th
thought
hole.
that was a euphemism for something. Now I'm like, come on, guys.
No.
My virgin ears here.
that was a ringer.
Yeah. No, he was found near the 16th hole of the golf course, but he was just so badly decomposed that.
So you're saying 2 weeks that nobody finished off 18 holes of golf?
Approximately.
And in the summer, because that's the only time you could really. Yeah, that sounds odd.
Approximately.
He must have drug him there afterwards. Had to have.
He had something because that's a very well-known golf course, and that's where a lot of people play.
Known. Yeah.
So for him not to be found 2 weeks, it's to the point where he had no upper part of his mouth. It was gone. That's how badly decomposed he was.
Oh.
Typically, it's like all the soft tissue, like lips, the genitals, and those soft tissue areas are the first to go when it
Gone
comes.
like that.
It's usually eaten.
Yeah. So that is the last of the known victims that was reported. And again, it's been reported that he killed up to 14 people. The reason why they say that he's responsible for the 14 killings is because during that time they also found multiple other homosexuals and or drag queens found dead, whether it was in the Tenderloin district, the Mission district, Market. They were found all over the place, and they speculated it was him, but the majority of them were found near specifically Tenderloin and Castro.
But it sounds like he was patterned. Like I said, it sounds like he was patterned on a specific method of how he was doing things. 8 times, 7 to 8 times, face down, or mostly face down.
Mm-hmm.
But the last victim was
old.
Was that the
older?
Oldest?
Yeah, it ranges from 40, 27, 31, 32, and the last at 66.
But the old guy sounds like he was in the most of the compromised position. If he had no shorts on or no underwear and pants down,
vulnerable for sure.
Most vulnerable, right? He
ain't fighting no one.
No. Okay, now could have been. I got a question to bring us all the way to 2020, and it still has a question. There's no way that they could have not collected any evidence at any of these scenes.
Well, that's the
I
thing.
mean, yeah, I understand there was no DNA process, but they have to have some sort of. There's got to be some sort of soil evidence, fingernail, hair pulling,
From what I
clothes out
found,
of place.
from what I
Really?
found, from what I've read, there was no hair, at least from the suspected suspect, the doodler. There was no hair. There's no fingernail follicles. There's no saliva,
Because they
semen.
didn't take them. Because that wasn't part of forensics back then.
That part
I don't
wasn't.
know, but okay, but maybe I mean you're right. That's probably so minute, and they didn't know how to detect that. But if you see the clothing, okay, well here go. Why did the guy didn't have any underwear? The last victim, did he take them because there was evidence on him?
His pants were just pulled down. He may have just been rolling without no underwear. That's just how he. There's people out there that go commando and.
True.
Bert Kreischer does it on a regular basis.
Who?
Bert Kreischer, he's a stand-up comedian. If there's a
Why does that sound familiar?
he's on Netflix.
Is he a fat guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
He always takes off his shirt.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
him.
Oh, geez,
Yeah.
I knew that sounded familiar. He was on Rogan, man.
Yeah, there's an
That's his
episode.
buddy.
Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
episode of Rogan after he got roofied, where Tom Segura, his other
Yeah.
buddy, and Joe Rogan play a prank on him where Tom's standing on a weigh scale, trying to get Bert's actual weight, and as he's coming back into the room, he steps off, and so immediately Bert's like, "Oh, Tom did it. I have to do it too." So he runs over, takes off his shirt. I'm thinking that's it. This is on YouTube. Takes off his shirt and throws his pants down, but has to cover himself because he's not wearing any underwear. But my whole point to that is that, or like how Izzy just said too. I mean, could he been rolling around commando just because he wanted to, or was he also a homosexual who did that for comfortability and for access?
I don't know, but it just from the people that you explained to us, he just seemed the most compromised. Everybody else was either fully clothed, correct?
Yeah.
Or weren't in a certain position other than being in a defensive position on their back or on their face.
Right.
So
now, this is where we talk about the survivors. As I mentioned before, there are 3 reported survivors. To this day, they have not been named publicly. Why do you think that?
Because they didn't want to be notated of coming out.
Hit the nail right on the head.
Wait a minute, the guys who survived didn't want to get caught being in a homosexual situation.
They don't want to have that label because 3 of them, and I'm about to talk about them, but 3 of them are, from what it says and from what I've read, are well-known people. We just don't know who they are.
Really?
Now,
in the San Francisco community, or just like
when you say well-known, is that political?
I'm going to get there right now. now.
Okay.
Jumping ahead,
guys.
I'm excited. I'm in the closet.
Now, again, it's possible that they didn't want people to know their secret, right? So our first survivor was a European diplomat. He reported that he had an encounter with a doodler a year later in 1976. While at a local leather gay bar, the doodler asked the diplomat if he had any cocaine, according to reports, and if he wanted to, quote, party. Shortly after, the 2 went back to the diplomat's apartment, and that's where the party really got started. Once at the apartment, the diplomat was stabbed 6 times. So at this time, from what it says,
this is a survivor. This guy survived.
Survived.
Damn. Okay.
Stabbed 6 times. So this was. It didn't say exactly, but I'm speculating. They get there. He's probably making drinks. Hey, make yourself comfortable. Do whatever. As he's trying to get him situated and ready to go, a fight starts. He starts stabbing him. He starts doing whatever. And then from there, the guy gets spooked, runs off. Especially after, again, probably getting roughed up.
Huh.
That same year, the second survivor.
So they.
Oh,
Okay,
sorry.
I'll ask after. I'll ask after the third one. But go ahead.
Okay. That same year, a second survivor had an encounter with the Doodler. It was claimed that this was a nationally known person. However, as I mentioned before, due to embarrassment, the identity was never released from this well-known figure. Now, he survived with only 2 stab wounds. And then moving on to the third and last survivor, which I think, and from what I've read on multiple different news forums, they have comment sections, and there's people posting like, "Oh, do you mean this person from the 1970s? This person from the 1970s?" A number of people who were famous in San Francisco, which this third and last survivor was known as. He was a well-known figure, specifically in the San Francisco area, but again did not come forward publicly as he was possibly ashamed of being homosexual.
Athlete, actor, or politician,
One of the
or
3,
musician.
or 4, yeah, one of the 4 big name people. It has to be. And from what I've read, people were throwing. I've never heard of them, so I didn't write them down. But I mean, they were throwing out name after name after name on ABC News. On, I think one of them was Cron 4. There was a thread on Reddit. I mean, just names of people who are well known in San Francisco.
Are any of these guys still alive?
Who? The survivors?
The victim that survived, yeah.
Not that. Not that I've seen. I'm sure they probably could be, but not that I've seen.
These survivors were survivors of like 75 through 85, somewhere around there.
Probably.
So depending, and we don't know the age of these survivors.
No, we don't know really anything other than that they had an encounter with this person, but because that's all the information that they wanted to give.
Okay, that was the other thing, is like, could they've forced to give a lot of information as to where were you at, how did you find him, like, because how you started this whole thing off from the get-go with the fact that you guys said that he was he looked like he was between 18 and 24 years old. He was thin build. He was 6 foot tall. He was African American. He had, there was a lot of information that was compiled that potentially could have
Definitely could have helped
narrow down, but that's all they got out of these witnesses, these people that went through that traumatic escape.
That's all they got. That's all that they were able to get. Now, and as I said before, it gets crazier to me, not with more victims or more killings, but what I'm about to read right now. The reputation. This was now a infamous. This is when the infamous composite sketch of the Doodler was released. It was released October 24th, 1975. So right towards the end of when he stopped killing. Because don't forget, he went from, one second, let me get back up. January 74 to September 75. So they didn't even release what this person may have looked like until a month after he stopped. The majority of the news coverage also was published from the Sentinel newspaper. The Sentinel was not a very well, at the time, as big, I should say, was not as big as the San Francisco Chronicle. The San Francisco Chronicle is the Facebook to the MySpace
of newspaper.
Newspaper, yeah. So
yeah.
The Sentinel they were the ones who were covering all of this. That's really the only reason why we know of all of these people, why we have photos of all of these victims. But now once SF Chronicle got involved, that's when things really started. That's when that Zodiac spotlight, as I mentioned before, created a much dimmer background. More of a light kind of started to shine over to the Doodler, specifically in the San Francisco area. But the notoriety did not come, like I said, until the Chronicle began to write about the killings. Owners of gay bars actually did not appreciate these articles being written. The reason why is because They believe the killings may reflect badly on leather bars and local bathhouses.
So they didn't want negative exposure.
And they want negative exposure. I mean, again, this is back in the 70s. They were already having a hard time being who they are. And now having an exposure of, oh, now we have people coming into our bars and killing people. I don't want that negativity around me and my business. This is my livelihood.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
Wow.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I'm thinking stuff, and I'm not. I watch too many of these crime shows, so I've got a question.
You're watching too much 48 Hours?
No, Forensic Files and
Yeah, those are good shows, though.
yeah, some Cold Justice is the one I watch now. This chick. That's how come I'm thinking about. Okay, so hear me out. We already think of some type of a enlisted person of some sort of military branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Started in '74. The wars before that had just ended was Korea and Vietnam. Korea was actually still going into the 70s. Dressed up as a soldier on leave. If there's no DNA testing, military didn't have DNA testing back then, so they didn't have to take test swabs or vials of blood, and neither did criminals.
That's a good point.
Right. And then if there's a certain way of this guy
My ass is starting to hurt on this
positioning him to kill him, he would have to know some sort of kill spot.
Yeah, no,
know, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. He would be trained on how to kill people in a close quarters combat.
Right? Yeah. Especially if
that's not a bad.
You said theory. The one guy got his throat slit 3 times, 3 attempts.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, already, like I said, being stabbed is a hell of a way to go, but getting your throat cut 3 times, could it have been botched that he didn't know what he was doing, or that he just wanted to do overkill? Because
probably overkill.
Again, at the job that I've worked at, I've seen people come in who've had gashes in their throats, to the point where I could see into their necks. And
dead or alive?
Alive, breathing, talking.
No shit.
Some of them were drunk. They did, get the fuck away from me. Oh yeah, they were. If people are drunk, I don't give a damn how bad their injuries are. They will talk shit no matter what.
It's true.
I know. I'm married to your mother.
But yeah, being slit 3 times, I'm only speculating that maybe he didn't know what he was doing, or he did know what he was doing, and he just wanted to do overkill because, like I said before,
but that slit 3 times, the one that got stabbed 18 multiple times.
Right, that was Klaus.
He was scared, and this guy Klaus, he put up a mad fight. He sliced him a couple of times before he actually got it right.
Yep.
And probably took him out, and then the last of it, just to make sure that he wasn't going to come at him anymore, the killer anymore, he took one last swipe at his throat to make sure that he wasn't going to get back up again.
Yeah.
He would bleed faster.
Brutal. You bleed it real fast. Now, with that being said, as I mentioned, the Chronicle is what really blew up this whole case. A number of unanimous tips came into the newspapers, to the police departments. They were flooded of young black men matching the description, slim build, had a muscular build, coming into certain bars. They caught one guy that fit the exact description of what I was just about to say Zodiac, of what the Doodler looked like. This person was in the Tenderloin district at a bar and was asking if he can draw people, specifically at the bar tops. When brought into custody, the guy had a sketchbook, a butcher's knife, and a firearm. He is the only one that they were looking into said Lieutenant Guilford of the San Francisco PD, but was not charged for anything, but was still labeled as the primary suspect and was released because they did not have enough evidence to hold him.
So that was it. That's the only lead they had.
That was the one and only lead. And that could have been him. That easily could have been him.
Where's all the other drawings?
They can't find him. They found the reason why they know so much about the drawings and why they call him the Doodler is because bartenders would see him drawing victims before.
So how do the bartenders
leaving.
not be able to identify this guy? Be like, oh yeah, that guy. He comes in and he sits over there.
Well, think about it. If he's only there and he's bar hopping. He's not staying at one bar. He's not staying at Jim's, local cabana bar. Dive bar. He's hopping to every other bar to find different victims.
Yeah, but he's got a point. He's got a real good point. Bartenders have photographic memory. Unless this guy wasn't a regular, he should have stood out more.
Especially drawing. Like that's not common.
Yeah.
You're there to get a drink.
Drawing,
there to...
the naval cap, the pea coat, all of that.
Yeah, he definitely stood out. Unless he had a partner. Did they say he might have had a partner?
Wasn't said.
Wow.
Damn.
And the fact that this cat still are like but presumably being that he was only 18 to 24 years old, presumably he's still alive now.
Could be.
And you said the last one. So were there any killings after the 66-year-old, or any more incidents after the 66-year-old, or was that the last and then nothing else?
All that we have is that there was a African American male labeled after the article was sent out in 75 of October, but was not held on any criminal acts.
But what I'm saying is there was no other victims after the 66-year-old. There
Nothing,
were no other victims.
Nothing that falls into what his, I guess, MO would be.
Pattern.
Yeah, no patterns. There's no people being stabbed 6 to 8 times. No people being found near beaches or bodies of water. No, I mean there were still homosexual killings, but that was more of like a discrimination thing, from what I found. But as far as what they found with these 5 victims, nothing afterwards.
Wow. So you don't know, or you haven't any information if the guy's even still alive.
None.
Not just in general, but just in live as of natural causes.
And nothing else has surfaced since then either.
Yeah.
Damn.
In late 1970,
something happened that 66-year-old person changed him somehow, because it's way outside of his motive of the
because if you think about it, everyone that he killed was between the range of mid-20s to late 30s or early 40s.
Yep.
Did the old man have a lot of defensive wounds?
He had none.
He had none?
None.
Oh.
You mean would you say defensive? Oh, defensive wounds.
Yeah. That's scary.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well,
maybe he felt bad after the 66-year-old. Like
there was no resistance. He honestly felt compassion or felt that he took a life than taking.
There was no fight for it. There was no thrill.
No resistance. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
Late 1977, the Sentinel reported that the SFPD spoke with a psychiatrist who actually treated the Doodler as a patient. Now, this is, again, skeptical, and no names of the psychiatrist were brought up. This is the part that I found quite sketchy more than anything, because if you're a doctor, you're being interviewed, especially in a case like this, there's going to be info on it.
Well, there's a law now, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
HIPAA protecting you.
HIPAA.
Yeah.
It was even said that the Doodler was a straight male, with the Sentinel's headline as straight male sought in mass gay slangs. According to the police, the psychiatrist said that his patient, quote, admitted during one of the sessions that he was responsible for every last killing.
So they had a profile. There is a profile. Okay, so if there's a profile, if these guys are dead, the guys that he attacked, there's no way of taking this to court. There's no evidence.
Yeah.
There's nobody to identify.
Mm-mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And even if they are still alive, and you said these guys were non-open or not openly gay, whatever it's called.
They were not.
So they're not going to
testify.
If they're not outed, they don't want their private. They don't want that part of their life to come out. So it's never going to be solved unless there's something you're not telling us.
I'm telling you exactly everything that I'm finding. There's still a little bit more before this thing is over.
Oh, go ahead. I'm listening. I'll shut up.
At the end of 1977, Harvey Milk, like I said before, was the first openly gay elected official in history of San Francisco to be a part of the board of supervisors. And when he was questioned about this doodler and his actions, his response was, "I can understand their position. I respect the pressure. I respect the pressure society has put on them. They have to stay in the closet in order to protect themselves."
Referring to the gay guys.
Right. After this, the killings and reports disappeared. No reports of any slim, light-skinned black kid or black man coming into gay bars and drawing victims ever occurred after. And in 1978, the serial killer known as the Doodler was marked as a cold case.
To today.
Yep.
So you don't know if he's alive himself or dead or just doesn't do it anymore.
Became a family man. He works at Cinnabon.
Well,
he has a 401k.
Works at Cinnabon. Why's got to work at Cinnabons, man?
Has a little shapoodle dog.
Mm-hmm. And has really good clear skin.
It has really great drapes, by the way. Now, as I mentioned, and Dad, as you mentioned before, even in the last episode, something today that can maybe shed a light on all of this is, as mentioned before, things were taken. When people do die, those articles, especially clothing, get taken in as evidence, and they stay there until the end of time.
Yeah, until it's closed.
So with new information given by none other than the Golden State Killer, as of 2018, the Doodler's case was reopened. Using similar technology as the Golden State Killer case, DNA evidence has since been submitted to Forensic Lab. Got me on the Forensic File TV show. Forensic Labs, and now it is just a waiting game. Can't tell me that was not a crazy story. Really crazy. So many victims. Sad that they all died, but what a trip that this person only killed for 1 year and was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm finished. Crazy. Thank you if you've listened to it so far. Thank you, Izzy, for being on the show. Can't wait to have you back, man. Thank you very much. Also, if you are still listening, please be sure to write a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. That really helps with building the audience. Also, be sure to like or favorite on Stitcher and also write a review on there. Getting the word out there about this podcast is something that I'm really trying to do. So please, if you can help me, give me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and a nice little review. Also, thank you to the sponsor Anchor for making this podcast possible. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. As I mentioned before, Izzy, thank you for being on here. If you are interested in his company, it is Diaz Media. It's like iPhone, Diaz, IDIAZ Media. You can find him on YouTube. You can find him on Instagram. Please be sure to hit him up. He is in the Valley of the Sun, Arizona. check them out, guys. Please. Thank you. Thank you to the longtime supporters of the podcast. My dad, Big Jim, best co-host that I could possibly think of. Thank you very much, Dad, for being on here with me. My mom, and of course, my beautiful, wonderful, and biggest supporter of this of all, Elisa, my wonderful, wonderful, beautiful fiance. Thank you so much. Please be sure to follow me on Instagram at Botalks Podcast. That's BOTALKS Podcast. And also be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Botalks Podcast. Thank you so much. Talk to you later. Peace.